Hello everyone, welcome to Group 5's presentation, The Guide to Effective Leadership.
So in this slide, we want to talk about why effective leadership is important. So definitely increased employee morale and engagement is probably one of the most important aspects of effective leadership because you want to have your employees happy, engaged with the business, performing to the best of their ability, which goes into another bullet point that we have here, optimal employee performance and retention. So with retention, when employees are happy with their workplace environment, with the relationships that they have in their workplace and their leadership team, they're definitely going to want to stay in their positions as long as possible, advance through the company, and so on. So just decreasing that turnover and keeping, the best employees is really a positive outcome of effective leadership. So also being able to set a positive leadership example for others is really important. So you can set that positive example and have other people that are either working under you or alongside you. They might be able to learn something from you and your positive example. Just being able to be approachable and hold those open lines of communication with your employees is also important as an effective leader. So you want to be able to have important conversations with employees and to not be intimidating, to not be scary, to not be, off-putting. You want to just hold those open lines of communication. And finally, we have self-awareness and feedback. So it's really important for managers to be sort of self-aware, and that way they can consistently improve on themselves. And then as well as open for feedback from the rest of the organization. So constantly improving and just being aware of how you're perceived and how your leadership is affecting the workplace. This is just a quote that I gathered from the scholarly article that I used as my source. So Brad Wolf, who is a personal speaker and an author, he had an interesting quote here. When we're honest with ourselves, we become more self-aware, and we can enlist the support of others for feedback and accountability, increasing awareness and acceptance of ourselves and others. This is often referred to as emotional intelligence. Everything starts with our self-awareness and acceptance. And I just think this is another really important point as far as being an effective leader in business.
So what exactly is effective leadership? Just for fun, I thought that I would ask my direct report at work if he would give me his own definition of effective leadership. He's the vice president, so he has good experience in managing, and he manages 3 teams. So he said that he believes that effective leadership is a combination of self-belief, belief in another and each other, and the synergy that is created as a result. Our textbook defines effective leadership in 3 ways. It's what criteria is being used to assess the effectiveness, at what level are the criteria being measured, and who is doing the evaluation. So when you say what criteria are being used to assess effectiveness, it's task performance, overall employee happiness, overall effectiveness of the team, and how they feel connected to you as a leader. So are you a type of leader who helps produce good results, who encourages the team, who has a happy team where your employees feel supported? And then what level are the criteria being measured? So that would be kind of taking each person as a person by person basis and understanding that they have different learning styles and that not everyone's going to perform well in every situation. And then who is doing the evaluation. So everyone's going to have a different point of view on being happy with their manager based on different things, based on roles that they're given, based on where they work, and those things are also going to affect. So there are several ways to demonstrate effective leadership in the workplace. They all stem back to leading by example. So being the type of leader who has the type of work ethic, dedication, investment to your workplace that you want and expect out of your employees. So following leadership values and responsibilities indefinitely. So being consistent, don't break the rules, don't bend the rules, don't try and find your way around things. Being consistently active in your values and continuing to maintain your responsibilities. Choosing harder decisions over the easy one. It's easy to pawn work off onto someone else. It's easy to, take a step back and say, I don't want to be responsible for that. But stepping up and putting your time and energy into things that are important to the team, to the company, to the overall workplace, it's a good way to demonstrate effective leadership. Supporting your team as individuals, so not making blanket statement expectations, taking into consideration team members' learning styles, team members, personal strengths and weaknesses, instead of having the same expectations out of every single person. Thinking and acting strategically, so thinking and essentially thinking before you speak or thinking before you act, and making good choices and understanding that your choices have a ripple effect to your team. Understand and demonstrate the elements of teams and teamwork. So showing what it means to work as a team, encouraging teamwork, asking how you can support the team in working together in teamwork. Clearly define roles and relationships, so make sure everyone knows what their roles specifically are, so there's not questions that lead to fuzziness or confusion. Allocate time effectively. Time management is huge. If you're not effectively allocating your time, then you're going to leave room for all kinds of hecticness and mistakes. Set clear rules and procedures for meetings, etc. That kind of goes back to making sure that you are clearly defining your expectations, and making sure that your day-to-day is consistent and you don't change your rules and procedures based on your mood or based on what's happening that day. You want to keep it consistent. And then learn and develop continuously as a leader. So how can I improve? Accept feedback from your team. Find ways to grow and be more helpful to those around you.
In this next section, I would like to discuss core interpersonal skills that, in their absence, can make or break a connection between a leader and their team. Without interpersonal skills such as empathy, attunement, environmental awareness, and active communication, a team can easily dismiss or despise their leader. An unfortunate but common misconception of a leader is that they would have total dominance over their team, and that the team would simply exist to serve the leader and act out the leader's every whim. That is not true. In fact, it is the opposite. While a leader has more authority than each group member, an effective leader exhibits empathy, compassion, trust, and honesty, as well as effective communication to serve their team, rather than having the team serve the leader. The first interpersonal skill that I'd like to discuss is vital for effective leadership. This interpersonal skill can be described as the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. As you can imagine, this interpersonal skill is empathy. To demonstrate empathy, a leader must first exhibit a baseline of respect and humility when communicating with their team, or even with viewing their team. An arrogant leader might struggle with expressing an adequate level of respect and empathy towards a team member. A key aspect of avoiding arrogance and applying humility involves a leader viewing themselves at the same status or standing as the employee. A respected leader will put aside past assumptions about an employee and actively listen to employee input or frustrations. An empathetic leader should place themselves in the shoes of their employees to understand their employees more effectively. For example, let's say a team leader has an employee approach them, voicing frustrations over his limited say in group decisions. The leader should first consider how they might feel in the employee's place, having little control of what the team does and how that would make the leader feel. This is how the leader can demonstrate empathy and put themselves in their employee's shoes. So as mentioned before, empathy is crucial for creating a cohesive team and an effective leader, especially when it's employed listening and acknowledgement, using phrases for acknowledgement such as, I can see how that'd be frustrating, but it really falls apart if it's not backed up by action. So to better understand this, I want to use an example of my sister. She's relatively high up in the corporate world, and she experiences flawed empathy from her boss. So flawed, it's not backed up by action. Her boss, he can acknowledge her ideas or frustrations, and he will often acknowledge it and say phrases such as, wow, that is a unique idea, or I'm grateful for your input, or I can understand your frustration on this matter. I would be frustrated as well. But the issue that caused her frustration would not be addressed, or her idea would not be implemented into a project. This causes her to lose respect for her boss and be less likely to provide ideas to her group because she doesn't feel respected. This is an example of her boss's limited level of empathy. So he has the first two steps. He's listening, he's acknowledging, but he isn't able to back it up by action. A leader with a high level of empathy backed up by action can handle employee frustration and create solutions that both the individual and employee and the whole group will readily support. Active listening is a vital interpersonal skill, especially when it's coupled with empathy. This will create a more cohesive team and an effective leader. The key to active listening is in a conversation is to show interest in what the other individual is saying. So that can mean acknowledgement of what they've just said, or empathy, putting yourself in their shoes and saying something. I can see how that would make you feel like that or whatnot. So active listening is important. As you can see on this slide, it means receiving, understanding, remembering, evaluating, and then feedback. So all of these steps are very important for active listening, which leads me to highly emotionally intelligent individuals. So people who are highly emotionally intelligent, they make excellent leaders. These people are born with this innate sense of empathy, and they are very in tune with their emotions. So therefore, they'll be in tune with the emotions of others, including those in their group. So an emotionally intelligent individual exhibits authenticity towards their team, and genuine empathy comes naturally to them. To be trusted and respected, a leader must actively listen by expressing genuine interest and enthusiasm in their employees or group members. So it's important that that enthusiasm is genuine. I always like to think that people aren't stupid. They can typically pick up on if somebody is being disingenuous. And that's just overboard. A genuine action is just going overboard. It becomes disingenuous. You've crossed that line. And people can pick up on that, and it causes a loss of respect between an employee and an employer, because they feel like, oh, if they aren't disingenuous here, what's to say they're not being disingenuous here? How do I know that I can trust them? So it's important to be genuine without going overboard.
In this part of the presentation, we shift our focus to employee engagement. One of the ultimate goals for the leader is to cultivate employee engagement within an organization, and as the focal point or mouthpiece for an org, how you communicate with your employees is a critical factor in making or breaking that engagement. As we've learned earlier in the semester, the benefits of employee engagement are overwhelming and can lead to increased productivity, profits, employee retention, along with displaying three key behaviors being say or advocating or being vocal for the company, stay, a strong desire to be a part of the company or in the company culture, and striving, going above and beyond expectations and displaying some organizational citizenship behavior. On the other hand, poor leadership and communication can lead to disengaged employees who are left not utilizing their full potential or wasting time, called spinning. Those who are just kind of floating along in the org, settling for the role, and those who ultimately want to leave the organization for greener pastures, creating a sort of brain drain for the org. As you can see, employee engagement can be a huge boon or bane to an organization, and leadership has a major influence in how employees do engage. Many of the techniques and attributes of an effective leader we have discussed in this presentation can help facilitate and create engaged employees. A lot of studies also demonstrate that feeling valued by management, two-way communication, interest in employees' well-being, and giving more opportunities for employees to grow are the top drivers of engagement, really empowering your employees and helping them align efforts with strategy